Ah, my dear, come closer, not for comfort, but for clarity, because there's a truth humming beneath your ribs that you've avoided long enough. 10 years. 10 unbroken years of fingers aimed at you like weapons that never ran out of ammunition. 10 years where the crowd didn't need evidence, logic, or memory. All they needed was a target, someone to absorb the blame they refused to confront in their own reflection. And you were chosen. Not because you were guilty, because you were available, because you were quiet, because you didn't fight back the way a predictable villain would. You baffled them even in stillness. And confusion in insecure people always mutates into accusation. 10 long years where your name was twisted until it didn't even feel like yours anymore. They shaped it, bent it, distorted it into something that made them feel steady, something that justified their prejudice, something that excused their lack of introspection. They pointed at you not because you were dangerous, but because it allowed them to avoid confronting the danger that lived inside them. Projection is a convenient art, and they practiced it with enthusiasm. Let's peel this back slowly. They didn't just accuse you, they curated an entire identity for you, a character, a role. They fed each other exaggerated versions of who you supposedly were, passing those stories around like communal oxygen. And every time the narrative grew, your actual truth drowned a little more beneath their noise. 10 years of being branded something you never were. 10 years of being cast as the villain in situations where you didn't even have a speaking role. 10 years of carrying weight that wasn't yours to lift. And the world around you treated that weight like it was deserved. But here's where it gets interesting. You stayed intact. Not untouched, but intact. You absorbed accusations without collapsing into the caricature they wanted you to become. They expected you to break, lash out, melt under pressure. They expected you to respond like the monster they painted you as, but you didn't. And that restraint confused them more than any outburst ever could. People don't fear what they understand. They fear what they can't categorize. You gave them no category, so they created one. And they filled it with everything they secretly feared about themselves. Now listen carefully. They weren't attacking you. They were defending themselves from the truth. Because if you weren't the problem, then who was? If you weren't the reason everything felt fractured, then what explanation remained? The finger-pointing wasn't about you. It was about avoiding the mirror. The real monster lived in their reflection, and none of them had the courage to confront it. So they projected it onto the closest person who wouldn't retaliate. Someone they knew had depth, but didn't yet know how to weaponize it. 10 years taught you how fear behaves, how guilt disguises itself, how insecurity hunts for a scapegoat. You watched people twist stories, exaggerate events, and craft entire realities from fragments that didn't even belong to the same picture. You learned, painfully, that groups bond through shared delusions more easily than shared accountability. And through all of this, you held your ground. The restraint they mocked was actually discipline. The composure they misread as passivity was actually power in its dormant stage. You were observing, learning, cataloging patterns with the quiet precision of someone who already knew that one day truth would rise without needing your permission. Let's talk about those nights, the ones where replaying conversations felt like dissecting crime scenes. You asked questions no one bothered to ask themselves. What did I actually do wrong? Why are they so certain? Why does the room change when I enter? And slowly, painfully, the answers formed. Not about your guilt, but about their reflection. They needed a monster. You were convenient. They needed simplicity. You were misunderstood. They needed control. You were unreactive. and nothing terrifies the insecure more than someone they cannot provoke. The transformation began in the shadows of those realizations. You stopped defending yourself. You stopped explaining. You stopped shrinking your presence to make others comfortable with their own contradictions. You stopped giving CPR to connections that only existed when they needed an enemy. You shifted, and they felt it. That's the part nobody admits. They felt the change before they understood it. The energy shifted when you walked in. Conversations stuttered, eyes darted. People who once spoke against you suddenly became careful with their tone. Not because they grew wiser, but because they sensed something rising in you that no longer aligned with the powerless version they invented. You learned the hardest skill, emotional detachment without emotional decay. You didn't go numb, you went selective. You stopped absorbing the room's projections and started observing them. You realized that most people accuse others of the exact thing they're hiding within themselves. Your restraint became a mirror they couldn't handle, and nothing exposes character faster than an unbroken target who refuses to crumble. 10 years of being misunderstood rewired the way you see humanity. You no longer fall for confident accusations. You watch the eyes, the hesitations, the tone shifts. You read the pauses between words. You learned that guilt reveals itself long before confession. And you saw guilt everywhere, subtle, disguised, trembling under the surface. And this is where the narrative flips. They didn't realize that while they spent 10 years trying to paint you as the monster, they were revealing their own reflection. Every accusation, every whisper, every exaggerated story was a confession in disguise. They showed their envy, their insecurity, their lack of integrity, all while claiming moral superiority. They built a fantasy villain so they wouldn't have to confront their own cowardice. And now the truth is surfacing, quietly, steadily, without your interference. That's the part that terrifies them. You didn't force the truth. You didn't shout it. You didn't demand recompense. You simply evolved. And evolution is the loudest form of vindication. People talk differently when they sense they misjudged someone. They tread lightly. They become overly careful. They rewrite memories to avoid facing the reality of their guilt. You'll hear them say, "I always felt like something was off," or "I never fully believed the rumors," or "You know how people talk." These aren't apologies, they're survival techniques. They're trying to distance themselves from the version of themselves that attacked you. But here's what they don't realize. You were paying attention the entire time. You saw every switch in loyalty, every calculated silence, every micro-expression that revealed cowardice in real time. You don't need revenge. You already received answers. 10 years of observation built an internal archive that no apology could erase or overwrite. Your clarity came not from their honesty, but from their inconsistency. 10 years didn't break you. They calibrated you. You learned how to stand in a room full of doubt and remain centered. You learned how to navigate conversations loaded with hidden daggers without bleeding. You learned how to build trust on action, not words. You learned how to detach without disappearing. You learned how to listen beneath the surface. These are skills people spend decades acquiring. You learned them through necessity. But the most important realization, they never feared you. They feared what your presence revealed about them. You exposed their fragility without speaking. You exposed their dishonesty without accusation. You exposed their jealousy without provocation. That's why they attacked you. Not because you were guilty, but because you were a threat to the stories they told themselves to sleep at night. And now, the script has flipped. History is rebalancing itself. Slowly, yes, but inevitably. People are beginning to revisit the last decade with new eyes. Questions are forming. Doubts are resurfacing. The version of you they attacked doesn't match the version standing now. And that discrepancy is haunting them. You don't need to explain yourself anymore. You are the explanation. Your composure is proof. Your growth is evidence. Your transformation is testimony. The real monster was never you. It was the reflection they refused to examine. And now, they're catching up to a truth you've carried for years. You weren't the villain of the story. You were the lesson, and now the script has flipped. History is rebalancing itself. Slowly, yes, but inevitably. People are beginning to revisit the last decade with new eyes. Questions are forming. Doubts are resurfacing. The version of you they attacked doesn't match the version standing now. And that discrepancy is haunting them. You don't need to explain yourself anymore. You are the explanation. Your composure is proof. Your growth is evidence. Your transformation is testimony. The real monster was never you. It was the reflection they refused to examine. And now, they're catching up to a truth you've carried for years. You weren't the villain of the story. You were the lesson. And here's where the tension deepens. Because lessons aren't gentle. They're confrontational. They don't soothe the ego. They slice right through it. And when people realize they misjudged someone for 10 years straight, it does something violent to their internal balance. It forces their mind to replay every moment where they pointed, accused, and insisted without hesitation. Every time they contributed to the narrative. Every time they nodded along, even when something inside them whispered that the pieces didn't add up. That borderline instinct they ignored is resurfacing like a bruise they can't hide anymore. You've become the verdict they never prepared for. Because when someone invests 10 years in labeling you the monster, and then time reveals the truth, what happens next isn't peace. It's panic. They start questioning themselves, not out loud, but in those quiet hours where regret surfaces with nowhere to hide. They don't just ask, "Were we wrong about you?" They ask the real question beneath it. What does that make us? That's where the fear begins. Because if you weren't the monster, then the cruelty they showed wasn't justified. It was exposed. They can't pretend it was caution. They can't call it instinct. They can't package it as protection. It becomes what it always was, cowardice dressed as righteousness, and you feel it, don't you? That shift in temperature when they look at you now. They're not hostile anymore. They're cautious. They're calculating. They're trying to measure how much you remember, how deeply their actions etch themselves into your memory, how much restraint you're holding in your chest. And beneath their uneasy smiles lies a question trembling in their veins. If we made them the monster, what does that make us now that the truth is unraveling? This is the part they never anticipated, the part where the quiet one, the misunderstood one, the easy target becomes the mirror. And a mirror doesn't distort. It shows everything as it is. That's why they flinch at your presence. That's why conversations shift. That's why people who once spoke confidently now hesitate before letting words slip out. They know something now, something they refused to admit for 10 years. You saw everything. You endured everything. And you remember everything. Every pointed finger. Every whispered accusation. Every exaggerated story. Every moment they chose convenience over honesty. It all sits in your memory with perfect clarity. Not because you held on to resentment, but because you learned to read people through their choices. 10 years of finger-pointing sharpened your understanding of human nature far more than any book, sermon, or lecture ever could. You didn't just observe behavior. You learned its motives. Let's take it deeper. They didn't paint you as a monster because you resembled one. They painted you as one because it allowed them to hide their own shadows. It protected their self-image. It gave them a moral pass. It let them feel righteous without doing any internal work. They projected everything they feared about themselves onto you. And when you didn't break, when you didn't react the way they expected, that only fueled their behavior. Because nothing enrages the insecure more than a person they cannot break or control. But here's the part that burns them now. The version of you standing in front of them is stronger than anything they imagined. You didn't become cold. You became accurate. You didn't become harsh. You became discerning. You didn't become distant. You became selective with precision, sharp enough to draw a boundary they can feel across the room. And this restraint you carry, this quiet heat under your composure, is what unsettles them the most. Because they don't know what you're capable of now. They don't know what you've learned. They don't know what you've let go or what you've chosen to keep. All they know is that the power dynamic has shifted, and you didn't announce it. You embodied it. They can feel the difference. It's in the way you walk into a room without apologizing for existing. It's in the way you look at people without flinching or seeking approval. It's in the way your presence holds weight, not because you force it, but because their guilt presses down on them when they're near you. They can pretend they've moved on, but their body language betrays them every time. There's a discomfort in their stance, a hesitation in their voice, a stiffness in their shoulders. They're trying to hide their history with you under polite smiles and careful tones. But their conscience keeps slipping out like an exposed wire. 10 years they built this mask for you. 10 years they insisted you were the problem. 10 years they crafted a story where they were the victims of your existence. And now they're watching that entire story crash under the weight of your transformation. They hate this part. Not because the truth surfaced, but because the truth surfaced too late for them to rewrite their motives. And this is where your restrained rage comes in. Not the explosive kind that shatters rooms, but the internal kind that fuels clarity. You don't want revenge. You don't want them to suffer. You're past that stage. The rage you carry now is different. It's focused, clean, controlled. It's the rage that comes from understanding the magnitude of what they stole from you. Time, reputation, trust, innocence of perception. They'll never understand how heavy it was to navigate those 10 years while staying intact. They'll never grasp the emotional weight you pushed through. They'll never know how many moments you held yourself together when falling apart would have been justified. But the difference between you and them is simple. You chose resilience where they chose convenience, and now the consequences are unfolding. They feel exposed. They feel observed. They feel the pressure of their own narratives collapsing. They feel the heat of your evolution burning through every lie they told. Not because you're doing anything deliberately, but because truth has a way of echoing louder once the room goes quiet. And this is where the deeper rage simmers. 10 years of being misunderstood turned you into someone who won't tolerate distortion anymore. Not from others, not from yourself, not from the world. Your boundaries are sharper. Your instincts are cleaner. You can see through manipulation before it finishes forming. You sense motive in a single sentence. You read intentions from a single breath. People can't lie to you anymore. Not convincingly. Not with the ease they once had. That ability terrifies them. Because now they're not dealing with the person they scapegoated. They're dealing with the person shaped by what they did. Let me take you further. When people realize they wronged someone for a decade, their first instinct isn't accountability, it's self-preservation. They'll offer revisionist stories. They'll soften past decisions. They'll pretend they weren't part of the mob, even when you remember the exact tone of their voice during the worst moments. They'll say things like, "I didn't know. I was confused. I just went with what I heard." These aren't confessions. They're defensive maneuvers. They want to rewrite themselves as bystanders instead of participants. But the truth is carved into your memory, and the truth doesn't bend to their comfort. Your presence is the reminder they can't erase. That's why they avoid eye contact sometimes. That's why they struggle to hold a steady conversation. That's why their compliments feel rehearsed. They're hoping to soothe their guilt without confronting it. They want peace without the discomfort of truth. But peace isn't theirs to demand. It's yours to allow. And your restraint, your control, your transformation, these are not invitations. They're boundaries. 10 years of finger-pointing gave you something priceless, an internal compass that never lies. You know exactly who you are now. You know what you stand for. You know what you'll never tolerate again. You know who deserves access and who doesn't. You know the difference between connection and convenience. And that clarity is what frightens them most, because you're no longer a character they can shape. You're no longer a scapegoat they can lean on. You're no longer a version of yourself that accepts treatment without recognition. You're operating on a level they can't reach because they never did the internal work. While they drowned in narratives, you built identity. While they exaggerated your flaws, you strengthened your foundation. While they twisted stories, you refined purpose. And now, every time they encounter you, they face the result of their actions. You became the reminder they never asked for. You became the quiet consequence that follows them into every memory of those 10 years. And the rage you carry, this human rage that pulses beneath your restraint, doesn't seek retribution. It seeks understanding. It seeks truth. It seeks alignment with the person you fought to become. And here's the ultimate twist. They spent 10 years trying to convince everyone you were the monster. Now they're terrified that you finally see the monster in them. Not because you want revenge, not because you want their downfall, but because your eyes no longer filter them through innocence. You see them accurately now. And people fear accuracy more than accusation. This accuracy, this sharpened lens, has become the thing they can't escape. You don't look at them with confusion anymore. You don't tilt your head trying to understand why they did what they did. You don't replay conversations, hoping to uncover the part where you might have misinterpreted something. That era is dead. You see the truth now, clean, unsoftened, undeniable. And it terrifies them because your clarity strips them of the excuses they've been leaning on for a decade. They always justified their behavior by telling themselves you deserved it. That you were suspicious, that you were unpredictable, that you were hiding something. It didn't matter that none of it was grounded in reality. What mattered was that the lie made them feel safer than the truth. But now, with the truth standing in the room like a figure they can't avoid, all their old narratives collapse under their own weight. Your transformation didn't just change you, it exposed them. Because now, when they look at you, they see someone who survived everything designed to break them. And that's the part they cannot reconcile. If you weren't the monster, if you weren't the villain, then what does that make them? What does that make the people who nodded along, pointed fingers, and whispered confidently behind your back? What does that make the ones who stood by passively, choosing comfort over courage? It makes them the thing they feared the most, the problem. That truth haunts them like an echo they can't quiet. They try to pretend nothing happened. They try to act friendly now. They try to show support. They put on kind expressions, speak with gentle tones, and go out of their way to appear warm. But their eyes betray them every time. They're searching for forgiveness without earning it. They're hoping your growth will absolve their guilt. They want the new version of you to erase their old choices. But grown people don't erase history. They confront it. And that's the part they still don't understand. Your evolution didn't make you softer. It made you wiser. It didn't make you eager to reconnect. It made you selective. It didn't make you forget the past. It made you capable of holding it without letting it dim your spirit. Your calm doesn't signal reconciliation. It signals mastery. And when a person carries mastery after a decade of being scapegoated, everyone who contributed to that scapegoating feels their breath shorten in your presence. Because they know what you know. They know exactly who they were during those 10 years. And you remember every detail. Think about that. For a decade, people spoke with absolute certainty about things they never verified. They believed assumptions more willingly than evidence. They treated doubt like truth. They carried stories as if they were facts. And they used your name as a shield to avoid examining their own flaws. They didn't just point. They enjoyed pointing. It bonded them. It united them. It gave them a sense of importance. Now they walk differently around you. Not because you changed your tone, not because you demanded respect, but because your existence challenges the story they told themselves. They can't claim wisdom anymore. They can't claim moral superiority. They can't claim intuition. Their whole identity is cracked open by your resilience. And here's where the deeper shift begins. It's not just that you see them accurately. It's that they know you see them accurately. That knowledge sits in their subconscious like a quiet alarm. It pulses every time they think of the past. They replay scenes where they spoke too confidently. They remember the days they distanced themselves without cause. They recall the moments they doubted you publicly, just to blend into the crowd. And now, with your clarity standing firm, they can't hide behind ignorance anymore. You can feel their uneasiness. You can sense the hesitation in their voice. You can see the guilt in the way they overcompensate. You can read their fear in the way they glance at you, then look away. They're not afraid of you. They're afraid of being seen. Because if you see them clearly, then you see the cowardice they tried to pretend wasn't there. You see the weakness they tried to cloak in confidence. You see the pettiness they disguised as concern. You see the envy they called intuition. And you see the insecurity they projected onto you for 10 relentless years. They spent a decade building a version of you that made them feel superior. Now they're forced to stand in front of the version of themselves they tried to avoid. That's the real horror for them. Not your growth, not your strength, not your comeback. But the realization that the real monster was never in your actions. It was hiding in their reflection all along. Let's take this further, because this is the part they will never admit. People prefer you broken. Broken people are easier to control, easier to dismiss, easier to blame. A broken person doesn't defend themselves. They accept the label handed to them. They internalize the narrative. They bend under pressure. But you didn't. Even during the worst years, even when the weight felt unfair, even when the lies echoed louder than the truth, something in you refused to collapse. Your endurance wasn't weakness. It was quiet power forming its shape. And now that power stands in front of them, fully realized. You're not angry. You're not desperate. You're not seeking acceptance. And that unsettles them more than any confrontation ever could. Because they don't know what you'll do with this new version of yourself. They don't know how far you've grown. They don't know what limits you've broken. They don't know how you now interpret their past behavior. And in their uncertainty, they see one thing clearly. You owe them nothing. That truth shakes them more than your silence ever did, because they always expected that once the dust settled, you'd come back into the fold. You'd be grateful for their minimal kindness. You'd accept their excuses. You'd lower your standards again. You'd let them return to your life without consequences. But instead you leveled up in ways they can't reach. You built a version of yourself they can't manipulate. You forged boundaries they can't cross. You developed discernment they can't trick. And you carry a presence that forces them to confront themselves. You became the very thing they tried to destroy. Not a monster, but a mirror. And mirrors don't lie. They reflect what stands in front of them. They show the truth, whether someone is ready to face it or not. And now, every person who contributed to your suffering feels exposed by your calm. They feel analyzed by your stillness. They feel judged by your survival. Because nothing makes a guilty person more uncomfortable than someone they expected to break walking in with unwavering strength. They thought you'd want validation. You outgrew the need for it. They thought you'd need their acceptance. You built your own authority. They thought you'd come back seeking closure. You closed the chapter without them. And that, right there, is the punishment they never foresaw. The price of misjudging you wasn't your downfall. It was losing access to the version of you that once tried to understand them. Now when they approach you, they're greeted by a person who is fully awake, fully aware, fully aligned. Someone who sees their patterns, reads their motives, and recognizes their tactics instantly. You speak less, but your words carry weight. You choose where to invest your attention. You move with intention rather than reaction. And they can feel the distance between the old you and the new you, like a door they can no longer open. That's why they rewrite their history with you. That's why they adjust their stories. That's why they soften their past actions. They're not trying to heal. You already did that without them. They're trying to escape accountability. But here's the part that stings them the most. You don't need an apology. You don't need them to understand. You don't need them to admit anything. Your life speaks louder than their regret ever could. Your growth proves they were wrong. Your confidence proves their doubts were projections. Your stability proves their labels were nonsense. Your presence proves the truth they refused to see. And now they're left with only one thing, the realization that the monster they tried to paint was the reflection they avoided for 10 years. They attacked you because you were easy. They feared you because you were resilient. They misjudged you because you were quiet. They scapegoated you because you didn't retaliate. And now they tiptoe around you because your restraint has power. That's the kind of poetic reversal life rarely delivers, but it delivered it to you. Not because you demanded justice, but because truth eventually outgrows the hands that tried to bury it. Your journey isn't about proving them wrong. It's about becoming so aligned with who you are that their assumptions collapse naturally. Your presence is the correction. Your evolution is the closure. Your strength is the verdict. They wanted a monster. They expected a downfall. They predicted your collapse. Instead, you walked out of a decade-long crucible with a spine forged from endurance, a mind shaped by insight, and an identity rebuilt from truth. You carry yourself with the authority of someone who saw the worst in people and chose not to let it corrupt you. And that choice, that discipline, that maturity, that sheer internal power, is the real reason they fear you now. Not because you'll expose them, but because you won't lie for them anymore. You won't pretend they were right. You won't shrink to ease their guilt. You won't dim yourself to make them comfortable. You won't play the character they assigned you. You won't fit the script they wrote. You erased it and wrote your own. They spent 10 years pointing fingers. Now they can't point at anything without remembering where those fingers were aimed before. You know who you are now. You know what you carry. You know what you've become. And you know exactly why they trembled in the space between who you were and who you are now. Because the truth is simple. You weren't the monster. You were the mirror that showed them theirs, and the mirror never lied.